Hello guys, Subhash here from AllttA Space, and today let's try to talk something different than ordinary. I personally did a lot of research on this particular topic, and I would like to share all these details in this video. There are so many different arguments and discussion in this tech community, and one of those is AMD versus Intel. When it comes to processor, there are only two main players on the market right now. There is a debate when you're about to buy a CPU or when you're about to upgrade a CPU, whether which type of processor you would like to fit inside your CPU. Well, that could be either AMD Ryzen or Intel Core i series, depending on your preferences. Like iOS versus Android or PUBG versus Fortnite, Intel and AMD are one of the greatest debates on the PC world. Well, in 2019, the gap between Intel and AMD are becoming closer and closer, whereby for the average consumers, we are not able to identify or differentiate the performance difference between AMD and Intel. Okay, let's go back to 2011, where AMD has released their first ever competitive processor, which is FX4100. At that time, Intel were already finalized on Intel Core 2nd generation and were getting ready to move on to Intel Core 3rd generation. Well, you guys just imagine the gap between Intel and AMD at that point. FX4100 had just over 4 cores and 4 threads, whereby Intel Core 2nd generation were having 4 cores and 8 threads. So AMD realized they couldn't beat Intel with money, so they adapted the best bang for the buck rule. Well, that was the first time Intel had some competition on this market. So AMD's tactics to dethrone these Intel legacies by giving a good processor for a good price. So this was their plan ever since they entered this field. While Intel were charging a premium price to their customers, AMD decided to go the safe route and offered a processor with a reasonable amount of money. So clearly this route was working throughout the whole years, but it is still not enough to challenge Intel. And then in 2017, AMD partnered with Ryzen and released a 8-core 16 threads Ryzen 7 and 6-core 12 thread Ryzen 5. This was huge at that point, where literally no other competitors has released 8 cores and 16 threads to the average consumers. And this was the first time Intel felt some pressure on their hands. The price difference between Ryzen 7 and Intel Core i7 at that time was substantially high. And some of the customers have already migrated to AMD Ryzen. And even one of my friends has ditched Intel for Ryzen just purely because of the price point attraction. So the lower price point is a great attraction for the average consumers. Well, obviously everything is not about price, and if you want to compare a product just because of the price point, you could be saying OnePlus is better than Samsung Galaxy S10. With all due respect for AMD, I feel personally Intel is still better compared to Ryzen. Well, there is a reason why Intel are charging premium price for their processor. Well, Intel processors are widely recognized on tech industry, and I'm not saying this blindly. I'm currently using Intel Core i9 on my Blitz, and previously I've used AMD Ryzen laptops, and in my opinion I feel Intel is slightly better compared to Ryzen. Is slightly only. Let me know what processor you prefer in the comments below. Okay, let's deviate from this story and let's talk about the features between Intel and AMD. Okay, if you compare product to product, you can compare AMD Ryzen 2700X with Intel Core i7 8700K, and AMD 2700X comes with 8 cores and 16 threads, whereby Intel Core i7 8700K is coming with 8 cores and 8 threads. So this means AMD processor comes with a hyperthreading. So basically hyperthreading is a single core executes 2 threads, whereby Intel processors, a single core executes a single thread. So basically what hyperthreading does is it runs certain amount of application faster compared to Intel Core i7 chip. If you do a lot of video editing, video rendering, or even 3D rendering, or even games, it performs better on a hyper-threaded processor. For example, a 5-minute video will take 10 minutes to render on 8 cores and 8 threads, whereby on AMD with hyper-threading, it takes around 5 to 6 minutes to render. I'll put an explanation video about hyper-threading above, so please check it out, guys. So in feature-wise, AMD takes the cake just because they offer higher cores and threads on most of their processor. So there are not much difference compared to AMD and Intel. Price-wise, AMD has an advantage. Performance-wise, Intel has the advantage, and features-wise, maybe both are on par. So the key attraction or selling point is either the price point or user preferences. Average consumers, trust me guys, they'll always go price over performance. And that does not mean AMD is better than Intel. Both has their pros and cons, and both has their unique features. So choose what is best for you. And personally, I don't feel there's much difference between these two. And that's the end of the video. If you like this video, please click the like button and subscribe to my channel. Until the next video, signing off. Bye bye.